What's up, sports bettors? So, what I kind of wanted to share in this live stream, and you can feel free to, email us or just comment on the video with any feedback, but is this new OddsJam screen that's about to launch. And what's really cool about it is you can see all the sports books you want to. Like, you can filter out books you don't want to use, but you can see them side by side for any market you want to bet on. So why is that useful, right? Well, what you can do, and what I find to be pretty effective when looking for sharp bets, profitable bets, is you can kind of compare sports books like side by side, right? So here, as an example, Joe Burrow, there's not a lot of discrepancy. Every sports book has his line set at 272.5 or 269.5. So like a 3-yard difference, not super interesting. But then you look at Jameis Winston and it's like, oh, they're 14 yards off from each other, the first two sports books that have posted lines. So what you could do, what we did last week, is we middled the over-unders that were big line discrepancies. So I think we actually hit one of them. If we go back here with some of these crazy long shot ones, I think we had one on Tua. But anyways, we'll have to there should have been a video on it, but I think we did. But regardless, like, what you could do, what's a strategy that people do on OddsJam is called middle betting, and you essentially would play here Winston under 239.5 on Underdog, and then you'd play his over on Prize Picks. So you pay the vig both places, but if Winston has exactly 226 to 239, 230, 235 passing yards, we cash our under on Underdog Fantasy and we cash our over on Prize Picks, which isn't that bad, right? And that's why it's so critical to have multiple, sportsbook accounts. You want Underdog, you want Prize Picks, you want DraftKings. So there's a bunch of links below. And also all these sportsbooks offer sign-up bonuses. So they all give you money to sign up, and you're going to need numerous sportsbooks to middle bet, to arbitrage bet, to positive EV bet, because you never know where the value is, which sportsbook's going to be screwing up. So, Kirk Cousins, there's a 5-yard middle, obviously not as attractive as a 239.5 to 225.5, so a 14-yard middle. But still, maybe, you decide you want to dabble in that. I'm not sure. What we can do is kind of check out other middles. So you have Ryan Tannehill. So if you're looking for a good spot to bet on his Underdog Fantasy for Jameis Winston, Ryan Tannehill is 10 plus yards higher than Prize Picks, right? So there's another one. Here they're in line for Geno Smith in the Lions-Seahawks game. But, what you could do is play the under for Tannehill on Underdog and for Winston, then play both overs on Prize Picks. Doesn't seem like a bad strategy. Middle them. Not super big line discrepancies in Trevor Lawrence, Jared Goff. Great spot to bet under for Russell Wilson, under for Aaron Rodgers, under for Derek Carr, right? All of these are 10 plus yards off, right? Derek Carr under, plays over on Prize Picks. So some pretty big line discrepancies earlier in the week with Prize Picks trying, both sportsbooks kind of trying to release odds first. What we can actually do as well is just go to FanDuel and kind of see. Doesn't even look like they have passing yards set for Thursday Night Football. But that's pretty interesting. So we can check out Moneyline. Not super interesting, but it allows you to see, if you just want to quickly browse and place bets, these lines will kind of light up when they're moving. So you'll be able to see when a sportsbook is changing odds. But what's really valuable here is I can see the entire market as a whole, right? So, okay, Heritage is giving us the best line on the Dolphins, plus 180. The Betfair Exchange is giving us the best line on the Bengals, minus 182. Saints, best offered, plus 135 on PointsBet. So data's everything as a sharp better. Here you have an arbitrage bet, minus 165 on the Steelers on a bunch of books, but you can get up to plus 180, plus 168, I apologize, on Supra bets, whatever that is. So that's pretty cool. So you can kind of use this to, look for opportunities. Like it looks like there are a bunch on Supra bets, whatever that is. So you can kind of use this to see the market as a whole, which is pretty cool. So then we can see player rushing yards if there's any big discrepancies. Not really. Rashad Penny, Miles Sanders. Here we have Pierce. There's a 5-yard difference between Prize Picks, Underdog. Maybe you could Jonathan Taylor. There's a 7-yard difference, right? If you're looking for a spot to bet the under 89.5 rush yards doesn't seem terrible. The over 82.5 on Prize Picks. Here's a huge one though. Javonte Williams, 60.5 and 50.5. That is a big middle bet. So what we can do is actually maybe lock one of these in. What do we want to take? So what we can do is go to here. Let's go to player receiving yards and see if they have anything posted too before we lock one in. And then let's go to player receptions. Sorry, I just got to figure out how to get this up. It's still a little janky. So there we go. Okay. So let's go back here. So nothing available in player reception, so we'll skip over that. Rushing yards, there's one good one. And then player receiving yards, we can check out this as well. So 5-yard difference in Jamar Chase. The under on Underdog Fantasy is probably what you'd want to go with here, right? Every sportsbook has him at 71.5. We can get under 76.5. That seems pretty good. Other than that, Chris Olave, you can get an 8-yard middle. That seems pretty good. Here's a huge one. Mooney, 40.5 to 29.5. That's an incredible one, right? Like, this is definitely a play we're going to include and we're going to hit here in a second on Underdog Fantasy. Here's another one. Devonta Smith, Gabe Davis. So there are definitely some good ones out there when you're just looking for discrepancies. And it always seems that Underdog is way too high and Prize Picks is too low. And then they kind of end up meeting in the middle as the week goes on. So pretty fascinating. Juju Smith-Schuster. So what we can do is like on Prize Picks, kind of the advantageous odds is going to be 4-pick entries. So we want 4 picks on Prize Picks. So what we can do is we can go here and we can go to Juju. So we can go, we can include it with our Taco Tuesday because why not? So Joe Burrow over 245.5. Do we like that? We can go to Joe Burrow over 245.5. Yeah, that's an absolute slam. So now we want 3 more picks in the NFL. There were a few we liked, so we didn't like anything in the receptions market. Here it's just kind of like, okay, like where's the big discrepancy? And it's going to be Javonte. So we want his over on Prize Picks, 10 yards off for rushing in the Raiders-Broncos game. So we want to take his over on Prize Picks. So we want Williams. And we want to take his over. Boom. Which is great. Early line discrepancy. 10-yard difference. I mean, that's a lot That's a lot of yards for a middle. So that's a play we're pretty happy with. And then it seemed like probably the most opportunity is in receiving yards as opposed to passing yards. I mean, there's like 15-yard middles, but you have to remember here, like the passing yard total is much higher at 240. So 15 yards between, Jameis Winston, 240 to 225, is a lot less valuable than getting, 15 yards for Devontae Adams, whose receiving yards total is at 81.5, because that's like an average of 2 receptions. Whereas for Winston, it's just less meaningful. So the higher the total gets, the bigger you want the middle to be to play it. Kyler Murray, Russell Wilson. I mean, there's a lot of middles out there, though. So we'll have some fun with this. So here we have a 7-yard middle. This is kind of how I do it. I say, okay, 7 yards, right? Just use data, try to tease out where the value is. So we have 5-yard difference here, right? So obviously we'd rather take the 7-yard difference and take Juju over. So we can go to receiving yards and we can take Smith. Here we go. We want his over. So all overs on Prize Picks. Pretty crazy. 5-yard difference here. I mean, 5 yards isn't. I mean, it's probably worth playing, but regardless, we'll stick to the bigger one. So we have 7 yards here, 3 yards here. So obviously going to pass on that. Just trying to find the best possible opportunities earlier in the week. We have 7 yards here, but the total slightly higher. So maybe a little less attractive. Here we have 9 yards. So we definitely want Pittman, right? That's a great one. So taking Pittman over 60.5. And here we have 7.5 on Gabe Davis. So how many did we have on Schuster? So on Schuster, we had 7. On Gabe Davis, what did we have? We had we have Chris Olave with an 8-yard difference. There's a lot of opportunity. Like, there's a lot of line discrepancies. 8 yards is a lot, right? So we have Mooney. Well, we definitely want Mooney. So I think this is like an absolute no-brainer. If you were to take 1, 2, 3, so we're taking Mooney over, and then we want to go to Underdog and be like, okay, let's reload this, and let's go to Pick'em. And let's get rid of this. And then we want Mooney under here. We want Javonte. So we're going to want Javonte under like 60.5 or whatever it is. So that's another huge one. And 3 pick entries are good on Underdog because the average line is -122. And then we want Juju. Well, that we got to figure out. Is Juju the last play we want to go with? So we can go back here, and then we can just be like, okay, like Smith, Schuster. So here it was a 7-yard difference, whereas is there anything better out there? So it's like, 3-yard, 8-yard. So I guess we'd rather take Chris Olave. So we'd rather do this. He's getting replaced. And take this over. And then this under. Right? So we have under 62.5, under 60.5, and under 40.5. So Mooney's under 40.5, getting him over 29.5. Chris Olave, under 54.5, or over 54.5, under 62.5, and then Javonte Williams over 50.5, under 60.5. So what we can do is just be like, okay, cool. We'll take this for, this is a promo on Prize Pick, so max of $10 can be entered. It's like, okay. So we can hit that, and then we can, play this for like 50, whatever. So now we have 3 picks, and then we could do Mooney, then you could bet a little more on Prize Picks. But again, on Prize Picks, you prefer 3 pick entries. So what we could do is take Mooney. We could take Olave. or we prefer 4-pick entries. I apologize. And then we want Juju, so we could take a little bit of Juju now. And we could take back to that rushing yards. We want Javonte Williams. Here we go. So then we have another over feast right here. And then we could hedge with a little bit more in like a 5-pick entry or something. I'm sure we could find on Underdog. So what we could do is just be like, okay, like, you know, well, first let's kind of finish it off. So I guess Javonte Williams is all we really wanted to touch. Jamar Chase, I mean, whatever, 5 yards. Probably some value there, but we'll kind of call it for now. This is great. I mean, 8 yards, lines 54.5 and 62.5. That seems fantastic. I mean, this is obviously fantastic. And then we got 5 yards. You got 4 yards. So it's like, okay, like, cool. We have Gabe Davis, which is 7 yards. So we could take Gabe Davis. I mean, I kind of like that. So what we could do is we could go back here and we could be like, okay, so let's take some Gabe Davis in the receiving yards. Or now we already have 1, 2. We could take a little bit of Smith-Schuster, you know. So we could like hit this 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Or like, you know, whatever, $35. And then we could go back here and we could take Mooney. You know, we can do this again. So we can take Williams and we can replace him. You know, we can kind of hedge a little bit and we can take Gabe Davis. So let's take some Davis. The ones we didn't want to miss out on for sure are Mooney and Olave. So, you know, we can hit this a little harder, you know. And then we have kind of different combinations of all of these middles, which are all, you know, these are big middles. So we don't really have that much risk. We're kind of just like hedging between books, kind of day trading sports. So then we want to go here and we want to take Mooney under, right? Gabe Davis over, or we want to take all their unders. So we want him, and then we want Devonta, or we want Williams. I apologize, lower. And then the last one we wanted was Juju, right? So that's kind of what we want. All unders, right? Which are, you know, Javonte Williams, over 50.5, over 50.5. We're getting, you know, under 57.5, under 60.5. I mean, pretty incredible. So kind of just like hedging, day trading sports, finding value where we can. And we know either, you know, Prize Picks or Underdog, they're kind of going to like consolidate in the middle. So we can go ahead and we can hit that for like $50, 50 to win 1,000 on Underdog Fantasy, you know, and we don't even know, like, I'm not sure if the value here was on Mooney lower, under 40.5, or over 39.5, because so few sports books, you know, have posted odds even yet. So we're kind of going to have to wait and see, because most sports books haven't even posted player prop odds. Although on Underdog Fantasy, it's pretty clear, like Jamar Chase under 76.5 is the side you'd want to go with, because every sports book, you know, has posted odds here, whereas, you know, there's nothing here. So I don't know. So we can go back to the EV page too and just see if there's any bets we want to place kind of currently. So Seahawks first quarter money line, get them plus 170 against the Lions, who have looked elite. Lions could win the Super Bowl. At this rate, the Lions may be a contender for the Super Bowl. So here, though, you know, it's just one quarter. So if you're buying them plus 170, kind of the way to think about it, right, is when you're betting on a team plus 170, they just have to win the first quarter 37% of the time, or tie the first, you know, if they tie the first quarter, you get your money back. So they just have to win the first quarter 37% of the time as opposed to losing it 63% of the time. So basically, if the quarter is not tied, they just have to win 37% of the time. It's one quarter. Can the Seahawks do it? I don't know, but the value's clearly there. 3.84% profit margin on this play. Hard not to like in the Seahawks game. So maybe we dabble. You know, quarter lines, a lot of opportunity sometimes. So we'll go ahead. We'll hit it. You know, some people, they bet a little smaller earlier in the week, wait for the markets to get a little more liquid, and then they'll bet more. But, you know, clear value here. And this line probably won't be around long. So that's what you have to recognize. If you skip a bet, That's fine, but it may not be around in a bit. So here, this play looks incredible. Over 7 in Pirates Reds on Caesars. FanDuel, Bet Online, and Pinnacle all have this favored. Pinnacle, the sharpest bookmaker in the world, they're pricing this at minus 112. They have this favored, so that's an arbitrage bet on Caesars. That's definitely a play we want to go with for tonight. So what we can do is just go to the Reds game real quick and drop a quick 1250 on it, and boom, they're going to take it. So that's fantastic. So we'll drop another 750 on them and just see what happens. And then they'll review it. But still, very clear value on this over 7, right? Like, this is just data-driven sports betting. You don't have to know anything about baseball. When every sports book is pricing something at minus 105 to minus 112, minus 113, minus 114, you can get it plus 105. Like, you're beating the VIG, right? It's all about finding these bets that beat the VIG. And, OddsJam obviously has more data than anyone. So really what the algorithms do is they just scan all these odds, update, trying to find you where are these data-driven bets. Right now there's probably 10 or so available. Where are those 10, 15 bets in your location that actually have enough value to beat the VIG? The typical VIG is 4%, so the sportsbook has a 4% leg up, right? Which is why it's hard. Most people can't beat sports betting, but they don't understand how to beat the VIG. They don't understand the math behind sports betting. So it's not easy, right? But this play is very clearly, they dropped it to minus 105, as you can just see. So we got a plus 105. Now it's minus 105. Feels pretty good, right? This play will probably drop in a bit. Let's see. We'll see if anything else is out there. Talk about sports betting. But this is a page. If you keep these filters on, you can essentially blindly bet this page and you're going to make money, right? Like, when you're getting plus 105 on a bet on FanDuel, that Pinnacle, the sharpest sports book, is pricing at minus 122 with only, 16 cents of juice in their market. You're flying good, right? True price minus 103. You can pick it up plus 105. That seems pretty great. So we'll log into FanDuel quick because I don't want to miss the bet. No, sir. So what we can do is just go on to FanDuel. And you never know when these bets are going to occur, right? You got to think about sports betting like you're a trader, not like you're a, sports bettor. People who make money sports betting understand the markets. They understand the markets are moving, sharp actions coming in, lineups are changing, and they're looking for these spots where they can beat the VIG. Right? It's not the guys who are watching highlight reels right now of Kyler Murray who are making the big bucks betting on sports. So what we can do, though, is quickly go to the Panthers game and load it up. So we have first half total. We won over 20.5 plus 105. So 3 touchdowns. That's what we're going to want. 238.10 max wager. You're beating us too bad. So what you can do is just hit it, right? It's pretty... Positive EV betting is that simple. This bet has a 5% profit margin, right? So we're staking 238.10. This bet has a 5% profit margin. So you can do the math. 5% of 238, our bet's worth 11.50. So my bet's worth more than $10. You want to give me $10 for my bet? I'm not going to give you my bet because my bet's worth 5% of 238.10. So 5% times 238.10, right? My bet's worth $12, right? So I don't want to give it to you for $10 because this bet is ridiculous. This is really good bet. So what else is out there? I mean, a lot of bets, a lot of NFL lines, prop lines starting to get released, I guess, on Tuesdays. So a lot of opportunities out there. Hopefully you found this video helpful. I like to turn these filters off when I'm looking at Underdog and Prize Picks, and you'll see there's a lot more player props available. So what you can do is just kind of when you want to look at the fantasy sites, which I recommend signing up for, you can click the links below and sign up, is you can just essentially click into them. And for a 3-pick or a 5-pick entry, on Underdog Fantasy, you're getting minus 122 odds. For a 2-pick, it's minus 137 odds. We have a bunch of tutorials on kind of prize picks and underdog fantasy you can watch. But essentially what this is telling you is like, hey, Ian Happ over, Michael Massey over, Corbin Carroll over. All of those plays are mathematically profitable. And what you'll notice is like the play we gave out on YouTube, Corbin Carroll, Michael Massey. I don't know who the other guy is. Who was the last guy? Ian Happ. So 3 picks we already have, 3 really sharp bets that you can get down. So hopefully you enjoyed this video, and let's make some money.